Ever wish you could just download knowledge directly to your brain?
Right.
Well, maybe we can't quite do that yet, but mindful moments. Nourish your mind on the go with AI narration is the next best thing.
Yeah.
It's like having a personal guide whispering wisdom in your ear anytime,
Right.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Speaking of wisdom, you've heard of Ulysses S. Grant, the Civil War hero.
Of course.
But did you know he was also a gifted writer?
Oh, yeah.
Today we're taking a deep dive into Grant's personal memoirs.
Okay.
A work praised for its honesty and surprisingly relatable writing style.
Interesting.
You might be surprised by what we uncover about this man beyond the battlefield.
Yeah, what's fascinating about Grant's journey as an author is that it began out of necessity, not ambition.
So he wasn't exactly chasing literary fame.
Quite the opposite, actually.
Right.
He doubted his own writing abilities.
Really?
And initially refused numerous offers from publishers
Wow.
who were eager to capitalize on his fame.
So they just wanted to slap his name on anything? Got it.
It was only after a financial setback and a diagnosis of terminal cancer that Grant finally agreed to put pen to paper.
Wow, imagine the pressure of racing against time to share your life story with the world, knowing your days are numbered.
Yeah, it's really remarkable.
It makes you wonder if he would have ever written them otherwise.
It's definitely a question worth considering.
The memoirs became a critical and commercial success, demonstrating Grant's talent as a writer and offering a glimpse into the man behind the uniform.
They did.
He even shares a humorous anecdote from his childhood
Oh.
about a horse trade gone wrong.
Oh.
Young Grant, eager to acquire a colt, inadvertently reveals his father's negotiation strategy.
He threw his dad under the bus.
Basically did.
Classic.
Yeah.
Grant himself found humor in the situation,
Oh, good.
even comparing himself to a Connecticut man known for their shrewd bargaining.
Oh, it's funny.
It reveals that even as a child, Grant possessed a strategic mind, a trait that would serve him well in the years to come.
From horse trades to leading armies, I guess some things never change.
Right.
But speaking of changing times, Grant's reflections on the Mexican-American War are particularly striking.
Yeah.
He doesn't hold back, calling it unholy and driven by political interests rather than moral justifications.
That's a pretty strong statement.
It is.
This was a war Grant believed was fought in the interest of slavery expansion.
Wow.
A bold statement for the time, and one that challenges the conventional historical narrative.
Absolutely.
It shows his willingness to question authority and speak truth to power, even when it was unpopular.
And that independent thinking really comes through in his analysis of the events leading up to the Civil War.
It does.
He had a front row seat to the political turmoil of the time, witnessing firsthand the dangerous rhetoric that was dividing the nation.
Right.
He even called out Jefferson Davis's bold claim that he'd drink all the blood spilled south of the Mason-Dixon line if war broke out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a chilling statement.
Yeah, it reveals the fervor for secession among Southern elites. But Grant also recognized that this fervor wasn't shared by all Southerners.
Interesting.
He contrasts the enthusiasm of slave-owning elites with the apathy of poor white Southerners who stood to gain little from the Confederacy.
So he saw a disconnect between the leaders and the people. He understood that the push for secession was driven by a powerful minority, while many ordinary Southerners were caught in the crossfire.
Right.
And he was incredibly critical of President Buchanan's inaction during the secession crisis, wasn't he?
He was.
He believed Buchanan had a duty to preserve the Union, but instead dithered, allowing the situation to spiral out of control.
Yeah, it was a critical moment.
Grant also pointed finger at Buchanan's cabinet, claiming that some members were actively sympathetic to the secessionist cause. He saw firsthand the devastating consequences of this political paralysis, which he believed paved the way for war.
So he's laying out the blame pretty clearly here.
He is.
It's almost like watching a slow-motion train wreck. You can't stop.
Yeah, that feeling of helplessness as things fall apart. You have to wonder if anyone at the time saw it the way Grant did.
It's a unique perspective because he was both a participant and an astute observer of these pivotal events.
Right.
It's this critical thinking and nuanced understanding of complex political situations that make Grant's memoirs so compelling.
So from a reluctant writer to a sharp observer of history, we're already seeing a more complex picture of Ulysses S. Grant emerge.
Definitely.
He was a man of contradictions, a man who could be both strategic and compassionate, decisive and reflective.
A fascinating figure.
He is.
And it's these contradictions that make him such a fascinating figure to study.
Right.
He defies easy categorization, and his memoirs offer a glimpse into the mind of a man who shaped American history.
Absolutely.
Grant's memoirs aren't just a dry recounting of battles
Right.
and political maneuvering.
You're right. He really dives into the human impact of war.
He does.
He describes the chaos and carnage of battle with brutal honesty, yet he also highlights moments of courage, sacrifice,
Yeah.
and even humor amidst the darkness.
He even criticizes some of the Union's early strategies,
Really?
pointing out missed opportunities and questionable decisions made by his superiors.
Interesting.
Remember, for most of the war, the action Grant saw was in the West.
Which, for those of us focused on Grant's life,
Right.
is important to understand.
Absolutely.
The Western theater wasn't some sideshow. It was where the war was won
Right.
and lost.
Exactly. And Grant was right in the thick of it, witnessing firsthand the devastating consequences of poor leadership. His early victories at Forts Henry and Donelson, key Confederate strongholds in Tennessee, demonstrated his strategic brilliance and earned him a reputation as a decisive and effective commander.
These victories were crucial in securing Union control of the strategically important Tennessee and Cumberland rivers, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They opened up a pathway for the Union Army to push deeper into Confederate territory.
I see.
But they also showed that Grant wasn't afraid to take risks, to go against conventional thinking.
That willingness to defy expectations is a recurring theme in Grant's life, wouldn't you say?
It certainly is.
From his unconventional path to becoming an author, to his bold military strategies.
It's a defining characteristic.
And nowhere is that more evident than in his most famous victory, the Siege of Vicksburg.
No, yeah.
This grueling campaign lasted for months, but Grant's relentless pressure eventually forced the Confederate Army to surrender.
Right.
The fall of Vicksburg, along with a Union victory at Gettysburg on the same day, July 4 in 1863, was a turning point in the war.
It really was.
Vicksburg wasn't just a victory, it was Grant proving he could win the unwinnable.
Right.
Which is probably why Lincoln finally entrusted him with command of all Union armies.
Exactly. Lincoln recognized Grant's determination to see the war through to a successful conclusion no matter the cost. But Grant's memoirs also reveal the heavy burden of leadership he carried.
I can imagine.
He writes with a profound sense of empathy for the soldiers who fought and died on both sides of the conflict.
He doesn't shy away from describing the horrors of battle.
Not at all.
You can almost feel the weight of his responsibility for the lives lost under his command.
And yet he never loses sight of the ultimate goal,
Which was?
preserving the Union.
Right.
Even when faced with staggering casualties and setbacks, his commitment to the cause never wavered.
It's almost like you can hear his voice in those pages.
I agree.
A man grappling with the moral dilemmas of war while still driven by a deep sense of duty.
His description of the Battle of Shiloh is particularly haunting. He describes the initial shock of the Confederate attack, the confusion and chaos as his army was driven back, and the desperate fight to regain control.
Wow.
The sheer brutality of that battle, the immense loss of life, clearly had a profound impact on him.
And it probably shaped his approach to later battles like the Siege of Corinth.
Probably.
Instead of a head-on assault, he opted for a slow, methodical encirclement, gradually tightening his grip on the city and forcing the Confederates to retreat.
It's a strategy that highlights his evolving understanding of warfare. He learned from his experiences adapting his tactics to minimize casualties while still achieving his objectives.
Now, speaking of adapting, Grant's memoirs also shed light on his evolving views on slavery.
That's right.
While he personally opposed it, he recognized the complexities of Southern society and the deep-seated economic and social factors that fueled the institution.
He understood that for many Southerners, particularly those who didn't own slaves, the war was about preserving their way of life, even if they didn't fully agree with the institution of slavery itself.
It's a reminder that history is rarely black and white.
It's true.
It's filled with shades of gray, with people caught in the middle of forces beyond their control.
Grant's perspective challenges us to look beyond simplistic narratives and grapple with the nuanced realities of the past.
His memoirs are a testament to his willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, both about himself and about the nation he fought to preserve. Grant's memoirs also give us a glimpse into his relationships with some of the key figures of the war, both allies and enemies.
Yeah.
He had a deep respect for Abraham Lincoln,
Oh, absolutely.
describing him as a man of great wisdom and compassion, a leader who bore the weight of the war with remarkable strength.
He admired Lincoln's unwavering commitment to the Union and his ability to navigate the complex political landscape of the time.
He really did.
Grant saw in Lincoln a kindred spirit,
Yeah.
A man who, despite his doubts and anxieties, rose to the occasion and led the nation through its darkest hour.
And then there's William Tecumseh,
Yeah.
Sherman Grant's trusted lieutenant.
Right.
He describes Sherman as a brilliant strategist
Yeah.
and a daring field commander, a man who shared his belief in total war as a means to break the Confederacy's will.
But Sherman was also a controversial figure,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
known for his scorched earth tactics during his march to the sea.
Right.
Did Grant have any reservations about Sherman's methods,
That's a good question.
even if they proved effective?
Grant certainly recognized the brutality of Sherman's campaigns. But he also understood the necessity of breaking the South's spirit of resistance.
I see.
He believed that a swift and decisive victory, even if it meant inflicting hardship on the civilian population, would ultimately save lives by shortening the war.
It's a morally complex issue, one
Yeah.
that Grant grappled with throughout the conflict. He
Yeah.
wasn't a man who gloried in war or took pleasure in destruction. He understood its terrible cost. And you can feel that burden in his writing.
He also seems to have held a grudging respect for Robert E. Lee,
Yes.
the South's most celebrated general.
Grant recognized Lee's military genius.
Yeah.
His ability to inspire his troops and outmaneuver his opponents.
He admired Lee's courage
Right.
and tenacity, but he also condemned his defense of slavery
Yeah.
and his willingness to prolong the war, despite the Confederacy's dwindling chances of success.
So, admiration for his skills as a general.
Right.
But ultimately, Grant believed Lee was fighting for a cause that was morally indefensible.
Absolutely. And Grant's perspective is particularly valuable because he witnessed firsthand the devastation wrought by slavery.
He did.
He saw the cruelty and injustice of the system up close, and it shaped his unwavering belief in the necessity of its abolition.
And that belief carried through into his presidency.
It did.
Even after the war ended, Grant continued to fight for the rights of freed slaves and the reintegration of the South into the Union.
Reconstruction was a turbulent and often violent period,
Yeah, it was.
but Grant remained steadfast in his commitment to racial equality.
He did.
He used his presidential powers to enforce federal laws protecting the rights of African Americans,
Yeah.
even when it meant clashing with white Southerners who sought to maintain white supremacy.
He faced fierce opposition,
He did.
even accusations of tyranny from his critics.
Right.
But Grant saw Reconstruction as a continuation of the fight for freedom, a fight that wouldn't truly be won until all Americans enjoyed equal rights under the law.
And his memoirs offer a powerful reminder that the struggle for equality didn't end with the Civil War.
It didn't.
It's a struggle that continues to this day.
Grant's legacy is complex and multifaceted.
It is.
He was a brilliant military strategist, a reluctant politician, and a flawed but ultimately principled man.
His memoirs offer a window into his mind,
They do.
his struggles and his triumphs.
They are a reminder that history is made by real people,
It is.
with their flaws and contradictions.
Yeah.
And they challenge us to grapple with the complexities of the past and to draw lessons from those who came before us.
Grant's writing style, though, simple and direct, is surprisingly engaging.
It is.
He doesn't try to sugarcoat the realities of war or present himself as a flawless hero.
He's honest about his mistakes, his
Yeah.
doubts, and his regrets.
It's that honesty that makes his memoir so compelling.
Definitely.
He's not just telling us what happened, he's letting us into his heart and mind, allowing us to experience a war through his eyes.
And that's a powerful thing.
It is.
It's a reminder that even amidst the chaos and destruction of war,
Right.
there's still humanity to be found.
So what does this all mean for you?
Grant's memoirs offer a powerful and thought-provoking journey through one of the most tumultuous periods in American history.
They do.
They provide insights into military strategies, political machinations, and the human costs of war.
But they also offer a deeper reflection on the nature of leadership,
Right.
the challenges of reconciliation, and the enduring struggle for equality and justice.
Absolutely.
Could Grant's perspective on the events leading to the Civil War offer any valuable lessons for us today?
That's a question worth considering.
It is a question worth pondering as we navigate the complexities of our own time.
If you're intrigued by this glimpse into Grant's life and thoughts, I highly recommend diving deeper by reading his personal memoirs.
You can find a link to purchase the book in the show notes.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insightful deep dives and share this episode with anyone who enjoys learning something new and unexpected.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the life and legacy of Ulysses S. Grant.